So just a fair warning, this video is going to go pretty in depth. Make sure that you're sitting down, comfortable, have yourself a nice glass of water or some other kind of beverage. But this is a video that I've wanted to tackle for a long time. It's something that I've studied a ton on, and it's something that I've given a lot of thought to. But before we dive super deep, yes, I did watch SpiderMan Far From Home, and yes, my infusion did go bad. For those of you that this is the first video of mine that you're watching, or you missed my last couple, every Marvel movie in 2022, which was the first year that we got new Marvel movies in a few years, every single one, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, my infusion had gone bad. Black Widow was right during the opening credits. Shang-Chi was about halfway through. Eternals was about halfway through. It was just, my infusion would like swell up or something. My blood sugar would just like, I would need to leave like halfway through and go home and change my infusion. Thankfully, I lived like 3 minutes away from the movie theater, but it was still super annoying. But yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home, about halfway through, the part that's inside you, the tube, it kind of like kinked a little bit, and like when I pulled it out, it was just like gushing blood. It was bad. But yeah, no, the curse is definitely real. I just hope that it doesn't continue into 2022. Yeah, let's dive in. The question is, what if health insurance was more like dental insurance? This is something that's really been on my mind recently, as I am needing a root canal and have been through that process and kind of got half of it done already and getting the second half done this week. And as someone who is a diabetic and has a lot of experience with health insurance. And so if you talk to people who have bought health insurance, I'm talking anyone with like an employee-sponsored plan or gets it through their state marketplace, or just buys private health insurance, anybody who really deals with a plan that has deductibles and max out-of-pockets, I think that it can unanimously be agreed on that there are problems. And the degree that people view those problems are, it's a little expensive, but it's allowed us to create the best healthcare system in the world. We just need to overhaul everything and just do socialized medicine and have there be no deductibles, no max out-of-pockets. I'm not going to tell you where I lie on that. I'm not going to make this a political video. I just want to look at this objectively, but it really can kind of agreed on that our system's not perfect. But do you know really what I really never hear any complaints about is dental health insurance? And honestly, like as someone who kind of has had not dental insurance for part of his life and has had dental insurance for part of my life, it kind of just feels like I'm getting a deal. I mean, like my root canal without dental insurance, or what it costed, it's like $2,200 and some dollars, and with insurance, I'm paying like $768, and like my checkups and everything are covered. Like, I genuinely feel like I'm getting a deal. So it made me think, what can we take from dental insurance and apply to health insurance? And obviously, healthcare and dental care are drastically different. Healthcare encompasses so much more, and there's kind of two aspects. It covers procedures such as surgeries, but also medications, pharmaceutical benefits. But at its core, like the insurance aspect of it is still the same. It's paying money each month to help in the case that you do need services covered. But at their core, health insurance and dental insurance, they couldn't be any more different, because health insurance, when you look at it fundamentally, they're incentivized to have higher costs, and dental insurance is kind of incentivized to have lower costs. So let's dive into that. So let's talk about healthcare, and specifically we'll talk about the pharmaceutical side. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I'll be using insulin as an example, but really you can kind of substitute any expensive drug in here. So I've kind of talked about this in the past in my why insulin is so expensive videos, which if you haven't seen, I'll put the link up there. But when you need a drug, it's kind of assumed that there's three parties involved. There's you who needs the drug manufacturer, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and then the insurance that kind of steps in the middle and gets the cost down and pays part of it, and you get the drug cheaper. But there's actually a fourth party that not a lot of people know about, and those are called pharmacy benefit managers. What pharmacy benefit managers do is they create a formulary, and each insurance plan has its own formulary. You can get yours, you just need to ask your insurance plan for it. And what it is, it's just basically just a list of drugs that they'll cover. And most insurance plans have tiers. They'll have tier 1 drugs all the way down to tier 5 drugs. And basically, the higher the tier of the drug, the more that they'll cover. So you'll say, like, have a 10% copay for tier 1, down to like a 70% copay for tier 5. And so what pharmacy benefit managers will do is they'll approach drug companies and they'll say, hey, if you want to be on our formulary, we need a rebate. And rebates are, I mean, for lack of a better word, they're a kickback. They're saying, hey, you know, for every drug that we sell that we're going to cover, give us a kickback of that. So these are purely hypothetical numbers, but I mean, let's talk insulin. Insulin, of course, is really more expensive, but for simple numbers, let's say insulin costs $100. They'll approach Eli Lilly and they'll say, hey, we're going to put you tier 2 on our formulary, but in exchange for that, for each vial of insulin that we cover, give us a $70 kickback. Those rebates that they get, the pharmacy benefit managers take a small percentage of that, and there's no transparency as to what those percentages are. It could be as low as 1%, it could be higher. We frankly don't know. It's impossible to find out. But then the rest of that money goes back to the insurance, and then the insurance, hypothetically at least, uses that money to subsidize the monthly premiums, stuff like that. So now you might be wondering, like I did when I first found out about pharmacy benefit managers, why don't insurance companies just negotiate for themselves? And the reason why is because of the 80-20 rule, which basically it stipulates that insurance companies have to spend 80% of all the money they receive in premiums to subsidize healthcare costs. On some like bigger plans, it's 85%, but in general, it's 80%. And so when they have this outside company that's negotiating for them and their compensation is a percentage of these rebates, then it doesn't count towards that 20% that they're able to keep for themselves to pay their employees and their marketing and stuff like that. And you know, it's not just a cost savings. There is some benefit too, and that's that these benefit managers, they do get to represent several insurance companies. So they can say, hey, for this formulary, we're going to have these 5 insurance companies. And so there is some leveraging and some negotiating power there, and it really does help the regional and the smaller insurance companies, because they're able to still compete and still have these big formularies. So what did I mean when I said that the health insurance industry is incentivized to have higher costs? So let's stick with our $100 insulin example. And again, these numbers purely hypothetical, as well as the percentages. A real viable insulin is more like $340. But let's say, so it's $100, they're getting a $70 kickback. And so the PBM, let's say it's taking 10% cut. So $100 insulin, $30 is going to the drug manufacturer, $70 is going to the PBM, they take 10%, $63 is going back to the health insurance. Now let's run through a scenario where insulin is $150 instead of $100, but they get a $120 kickback instead of the $70 that they were before. So it's the same net price. The drug manufacturer is still getting $30 for it. But now the pharmacy benefit manager is getting a $120 kickback. They get to keep 10%. Now they're getting $12 instead of just $7. And the insurance company is now getting a rebate of the remaining $108 instead of the $63 that they were before. And now you're probably saying, you know, yeah, the insurance gets a bigger rebate, but now they have to cover a more expensive drug. And that's true. So before they were getting a $63 rebate, and now they're getting a $108 rebate. So they're getting $45 more, but the drug is now $50 more expensive. So you're thinking, yeah, they're $5 more behind. And that would be true, except you're forgetting your copay. So let's assume for a tier 2 drug, you're paying a 10% copay. That's very low for tier 2. It's usually 20 or 30%, but let's go 10%. Best case scenario, right? So for the $100, you were paying a $10 copay. Now $150, you're paying $15. There's that $5 difference right there. So now the insurance company is even money right now. Another thing that we're also not accounting for is that most plans have a deductible. For a lot of plans, these deductibles are actually pretty high. But let's assume that you have like a $300 deductible on this plan. Again, very low, but let's say $300. That means that the first 2 times that you're buying this $150 insulin, you're paying full price for that. guess what? Even though you're paying full price, it's covered under your insurance, the insurance company still gets that rebate. So even though you're paying full price, the insurance company is going to get $216 back in rebates for this. And again, that's versus the $100 that you would be paying 3 times, where they were getting 63 each time. So that would have added up to 189. So they get significantly more if you're paying 150 twice versus 100 3 times. Also, the insurance company can justify charging a higher premium if they're covering more expensive drugs. And also, everybody that's taking insulin is now that much more prone to try to get insurance instead of just trying to tackle the cost on their own. And it's all about getting the dollars flowing to the insurance company, because they get to keep 20% of all the premiums that they receive. Okay, so what about the drug maker? You might be like, well, they're still just getting $30 in this hypothetical scenario. How do they benefit? And you're right, they are still just getting $30, but because they're able to give such a bigger rebate to the pharmacy benefit managers, that means that they're going to be higher on the formulary. So let me give you an example from my current insurance. So Novolog is a higher tier than Humalog, and basically it works out to, if I do vastly prefer Humalog, I can still get it. My insurance will cover it, but I have to hit a pharmacy deductible first and pay a 10% copay versus just a low fixed copay for my Novolog. Basically, it works out to where Humalog is about 3 times as much as Novolog. Novolog is, of course, able to achieve this higher tier because they're willing to pay a higher rebate to the pharmacy benefit manager than Humalog is. And so when I first got diagnosed with diabetes, my doctor basically explained Humalog and Novolog as Coke and Pepsi. Most people are just like, Coke, Pepsi, I'll take whatever. But there are some people who really like Pepsi, and there are some people who really like Coke. Honestly, I don't think that's a fair example, because I know a lot more people that are a lot more specific about whether they have Pepsi or whether they have Coke, whereas most diabetics are like, insulin's insulin, and that's where I fall. I really don't know the difference between Humalog and Novolog. And you know what, truth be told, if I was shopping in the grocery store, and I really prefer Pepsi over Coke, if I'm going shopping and I see that Pepsi is 3 times as much as Coke, even though I like Pepsi, I'd probably just go with Coke for the cost savings. And that's the thing, is that all these insurance companies will only have one preferred brand of insulin, and they're able to become that preferred brand by paying these higher rebates. So the higher the cost, the more rebates they can give. And having that insurance have that insulin be the preferred brand basically means that every single person on that insurance will buy that insulin. Plus, since all the other insulin manufacturers are kind of doing the same thing, it means that roughly all insulin is going to be within a very small variable price. They're all going to cost roughly the same. And so that means that for the very few people who are uninsured who are diabetic, they're going to be paying these higher prices, and the drug manufacturer just benefits from that. And for simplicity, in this example, we are ignoring the fact that insurance does provide some discounts. But honestly, I haven't got a discount that's been more than 10% on insulin or any other drug that I recall, for that matter. And again, the big reason why is because all of their bargaining is going towards getting bigger rebates, not steeper discounts. Though I think that the only reason that they really do offer any discounts is so that the people on super high deductibles actually feel like they're getting something as they're going towards that huge deductible. And I think the reason that we've also seen deductibles skyrocket in the past years is because it's so profitable for them. They don't have to really pay anything, but they're getting all these rebates. So why don't I feel like I'm getting a good deal on my health insurance? Well, if you look at it in a vacuum, then I absolutely am. In my personal example, this year there was a new health insurance company that started offering coverage in my state, which is Idaho. And this just goes to show how important competition is, because this new plan is by far the best I've ever had. And even though my income's the highest it's ever been, and subsequently I'm getting the least amounts of subsidy that I've ever gotten, but this is the best coverage I've ever had. This is the first time ever that I haven't had to budget thousands and thousands of dollars in the first couple months of the year, because I'm not hitting my max out of pocket 4 or 5 months into my plan. My tier 2 prescriptions don't have a deductible that I need to hit. and it's a very low copay, and that includes my insulin and my Dexcom, which I am just ecstatic about. But the reason why I don't feel like I'm getting a good deal is because the only reason those prescriptions would be so expensive outside of health insurance is for the reasons that we just discussed, and B, the reason that my health insurance is so affordable and my copays are so low is because I get subsidies from the government, and I'm not oblivious. I know that cost comes from somewhere. Those subsidies come from somewhere, and so they come from either higher taxes on me, and I know that I'm not being taxed directly, or B, they're being charged to businesses, which subsequently get passed on to me through higher prices, or C, it's just inflating the national deficit, and eventually that's going to come at a cost, whether that be higher taxes in the future, higher inflation, or the collapse of the dollar, and we start with the new American dollar, or some combination of A, B, and C. Let's compare that to dental insurance. And I'm not saying health insurance should be exactly like dental insurance. I'm just saying that there's certain principles that we can take that might make our health care more affordable and just better for the consumer. So how dental insurance works is they develop these rate plans, and they basically say, hey, if you want to be accepted by insurance, we're going to pay this much for a cavity filling, this much for a crown, this much for a root canal, etc., etc. Those rates have to be high enough that the dentist will accept them and can continue to operate their businesses with those rates. But they also can't be too high, or the cost for the dental health insurance becomes too high. And the system, for the most part, it just works. I mean, most dentists that we know are still doing pretty well, and dental insurance is relatively affordable, and honestly, I feel like I'm getting a good deal. Like, for my personal plan, I'm paying $33 a month, so a total cost of $390 a year, $396, and without insurance, my biannual cleanings and exams would have cost me $350. So I'm paying a little bit extra, but I get coverage for cavities, root canals, crowns, etc. So if I just get like one cavity throughout the year, then I'm money ahead, because without insurance, it'd be $120, I think, is what a cavity costs to fill, plus that $350. I'm basically saving about $70 a year if I just have one cavity. If I have more, then I am so far money ahead. And again, that $33 a month that I'm paying, it doesn't require any government subsidies. There's no secret rebates going on in the background. It's just the power of leverage. My dental insurance can say, hey, we're covering this many people, agree to this rate plan, or all the people that we're covering, they're going to go to another dentist. And because my dental insurance pays 80% of minor procedures, like getting cavities filled and stuff like that, and 50% of major procedures such as root canals and crowns, stuff like that, they're incentivized to keep those costs as low as possible while still having dentists on board. So what if health insurance acted like this? What if they focused on negotiating lower prices instead of negotiating rebates? What if they approached all the insulin manufacturers and said, hey, we'll pay you $40 per vial of insulin, take it or leave it. We cover 5 million people. If you want these 5 million people using your insulin, you got to accept $40 a vial. And then just depending on the plan and the individual, maybe they say they would have a 20% copay. But this way, the health insurer is incentivized to have a lower cost, not a higher cost. And I think that's just better for the consumers. This would also give the consumers more choice. All the insulin manufacturers that agreed to that price would be covered under those plans, and all the consumers would have the same copay for those insulins. If I preferred Humalog, I could have Humalog. If I preferred Novolog, I could have Novolog. I didn't have the financial aspect dictating kind of what insulin I use and how I manage my diabetes. This is kind of how healthcare works in Canada and other countries that have kind of universal healthcare. Is the government just says, if you want to sell insulin in Canada, the price is going to be this much per vial, take it or leave it. And for the most part, insulin manufacturers have taken it. I think this also would encourage innovation. You know, if everybody's paying the same price for insulin, then the manufacturers are going to need to find some way to differentiate it. Whether that's releasing FIAS, you know, faster acting insulin, they're going to be motivated to make their product better, make it stand out. But again, just the primary difference is that instead of being incentivized to have higher costs, we're going to be incentivized to lower costs. And I think that's just going to be so much better for consumers. And with dental insurance, there's no mandate that says, oh, you have to spend 80% of the premiums actually covering healthcare costs. No, with dental insurance, they realize that if they don't spend the majority of the premiums they collect actually paying for dental insurance, then their prices are going to go up higher, and it's just a competitive marketplace, and they have to be spending those premiums covering dental insurance to be competitive. One thing that I don't think could carry over from dental insurance is the max annual allowance, and basically it's over the course of a year they'll only cover $2,000 or $1,000 depending on how much you pay for the insurance. And with health insurance, there's so many things that go wrong, you know, like if people blow out a knee and need an MCL surgery, or like say there's complications on a pregnancy. I think that those costs just get so high that I don't think that people can financially plan on those complications. And so I realize that will raise costs, but I think that that's a necessary evil. Current health insurance actually kind of has the opposite of this, and annual max out of pockets. And I think that this actually should be done away with too. I maybe could be talked out of this, but I've just noticed that when I hit my max out of pocket and I have no financial incentive to not, you know, get a newest insulin pump or things that I don't necessarily need, then I behave so differently when I have no cost. Even though the financial planner in me loves knowing, hey, you know, $3,000 this year is the most that I'm going to need to pay for my medical costs, I just don't like the psychology of it. You know, when I am not paying anything, I just behave so differently. But again, if I'm just paying a 20% copay on a $40 vial of insulin, then max out of pocket shouldn't even matter. And now it might seem like I'm contradicting myself because I just said that, you know, there's knee surgeries or pregnancies with complications, and there are. And I think a good way to mitigate this is to kind of have fixed copays for surgeries. So you might say, hey, you know, if you're having a baby, it's an $800 copay. If there's complications, it's going to be $1,200. That way people still have like a financial incentive, but they also won't get hit with $30,000 of medical bills. So I don't know. These are just a couple of my thoughts on this. If you disagree with me, or if you have another point of view, please comment down below. I'd love to have a discussion about this. As per usual, please just like and subscribe. I'm a fairly small channel and really need to get those subscribers up. Liking helps a lot, and subscribing obviously helps subscriber numbers grow. But yeah, if you have any other ideas for healthcare related videos or diabetes related videos, please put those down there too. And until next time, we'll see ya.